welcome to Future Focus, a financial strategies podcast where we make the complex simple. My name is Troy Branch. I work for Emeritus, and I have with me today from the nationally renowned BakerHostetler law firm, over 1,000 attorneys across the country, partner Jon Forster. Now, Jonathan and I have had the opportunity to talk a bunch of different times. So we could go through a long list of kind of Jonathan's accomplishments. If he wants to, we can talk about that. But just know that Jonathan's been accomplished in the insurance and sort of financial services industry, long tenured, and has a bunch to talk to us today in relation to estate planning. And we've kind of done a series on estate planning, Jon. So we're going to talk about that today. First, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself a little bit if you want to. If not, we can just go ahead and dive right in.
I think we could dive right in. I'm sure I'm credentialed after that conversation.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about estate planning here on Future Focus in previous episodes, whether it was my team, we've had other call it third parties talk about a bunch of different things as it relates to estate planning. And when you and I talked, the theme that sort of pops into my head when we talked is estate planning yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That's kind of how I thought about it as I was putting together notes and sort of doing any research. The first thing I want to do in the vein of making the complex simple, tell us what you think estate planning is, or how would you explain estate planning to the layman?
Well, to me, estate planning is really an age-old business. Can't recall when it exactly started, but it was a process that was principally a safety net for people. So in case something happens to me, or really when something happens to me, death, disability, there's some kind of plan in place, i.e. some documents that explain my wishes and set in motion a variety of features where people can control my affairs and ultimately maybe even dispose of my resources. And today, I think that process has just naturally evolved for a variety of reasons. It's more integrated in terms of its requirements with multiple other disciplines. People are living much longer and living much longer independently. And so that really has changed the qualitative and quantitative approaches that support it. And then lastly, technology has been introduced that really helps democratize information. So information is not just in the purview of the advisors and their respective collaborators, but it's also in reach of the families themselves.
Okay, so let's go back to a couple of things. When you say multiple disciplines, like isn't it, most people think estate planning is estate planning. Maybe they think as far as an estate planning attorney, right? Like, so when you say multiple disciplines, what are you trying to get people to sort of, or what should people think about with the multiple disciplines involved in estate planning?
So if we think about planning, it's normally been delivered in a very siloed manner where the lawyer stays in his or her lane and delivers his or her services sort of with blinders on relative to the other advisors being investment teams, insurance teams, accountants. So by way of just basic, simple example, I create a trust. I now wish to fund it. Just that base level of work. So somebody in the financial services industry has to now open up an account in their ecosystem so that the funds can come into that trust account. They need a tax identification number. They need the name of the trust. They need to know who the trustee is in order for them to do their piece of this particular assignment. That trust will now, that it has a tax ID number, trigger a tax return filing. And so now an accountant needs to be apprised of what's happening so that he or she can go ahead and prepare a tax return for that particular year for that particular trust? And then maybe even question mark, do I need to prepare a gift tax return as well for the funding effort? And so to me, there's 3 or 4 disciplines involved almost instantly. And the question is, are you collaborating or are you delivering a siloed piece of work? And if you're delivering a siloed piece of work, just by way of example, I create a trust, I pull a tax ID number, and I send you, Troy, the family member, a memo. It says, this is what you're going to do. You're going to contact your investment team. You're going to open an account with them. You're going to figure out how to fund it. You're going to determine whether or not there's a gift tax. You're going to determine if and when you determine to tell your CPA to file a return. And so one area is that information being spread sort of horizontally. The other way is it goes vertically into you and you're responsible for the spreading of that data. And so now you have a job, which if you fail to do your job, what I did doesn't work.
And me being the sort of
member.
end client, the family member, right? And okay, so and so and that's the way we see it, and that's the way we've seen it probably yesterday and probably today, I would imagine, right?
Sure. If you want to poke holes in somebody's legacy plan or estate plan, the quickest way to do it is review it. I promise you that because of the way those services were delivered, typically in a siloed manner, where you get an assignment at the end, you being the family, I promise you the likelihood of those tasks never being accomplished is probably somewhere in the 80% range. Highly likely you never did anything beyond sign the document and receive the memo. And so to me, the new paradigm is, in part, how do we collaborate? How do we dissolve the silos between the different collaborators, if you will, who are the investment team, the insurance team, the accountant possibly, and the lawyer?
And do you, but before we move on, do you find that, what's your sense of tearing down those silos, if you will, between the collaborators? Is that something that the client mandates, or is there one of the trusted advisors or the siloed advisor sort of looks out and goes, hey, we need to do this differently? How do you generally see that being accomplished?
So that's a really good question, because quite frankly, it leads to one of the many headwinds in this space. So who does this? Who defines our roles? What are we tasked with doing here? And the answer is there are no definitions, there are no real assignments, because the space is yet undefined. And so consequently, unfortunately, the client needs to be sophisticated enough on these matters to ask the right questions. Hey, Jon Forster, what is your role in all of this? Are you going to provide me with continuing services after the plan's been implemented? Do you manage and monitor this plan? Do we do regular checkups to see if it's working? And are you going to collaborate with my other advisors to make sure that the other elements are addressed? Or is that my role, all of those things? In a conventional setting, the lawyer is going to do something that's siloed.
Right. And so if I extend that example and those questions and the need for the client to be shrewd, like the advisor, whoever it is, if it's the attorney, the insurance, or risk mitigate, whoever is handling risk mitigation, investment planning, the advisor who can sort of quarterback all that would become quite a bit more valuable.
So that's another good point and another headwind in this space. So does this team of people know each other? Have they worked together before? Have you told them specifically to work together as the family member, buyer, or consumer? So that all depends on your team and how you build it. So if you build a team from scratch, I'm going to get the best person from accounting, from lawyering, from investing, from insurance work, and you amalgamate the team, then it strikes me as the assignment you have is telling the team what their roles are. It's like you've become the coach. Another approach might be, Jon Forster, I like you, I trust you. Who do you like to work with? You build me a team and you task those people with their respective assignments and then come back to me and tell me what they are. What should my expectations be? And so those are two different models, completely different, with very different outcomes, I promise you.
Okay. That's absolutely. So I'm gonna change gears just a little bit because I know I want to get to. We've just kind of talked about yesterday and today as it relates to estate planning. So let's talk about tomorrow. And you can't flip a page, whether it be virtually or an actual page of paper, without sort of having to deal with the realities that AI, in whatever form you choose to think about AI, is here and likely not going anywhere. How do you see, like, how and where do you see AI having an effect on estate planning as it relates to tomorrow? Like, is it as simple as we can just have AI do it? I mean, and I ask that facetiously. I don't think that's the answer, but but certainly, like, how does AI fit in all this?
Having this dialogue? I mean, those are excellent questions. Let's start off philosophically, where I think you start with AI and professional services. For a long time, we've been fortunate as professional service people to be fairly sheltered from technology. Mostly it's been in the form of, trades, vocational work. And we sort of said, oh my gosh, I guess, trucking will go away with self-driving trucks, and taxi cab drivers might go away with self-driving cabs. And oh my, and cars are being built, using robotics. AI spreads that technology ecosystem to us. All the other advances, to my mind, were more mechanical. This is a thought leader now being introduced, a potential thinker. And that's what you and I do for a living. So now suddenly technology is invading our space. And if you look at it as a space invasion, and with, let's just say bad consequences, then the likelihood is you're going to have rope burn, as I like to say. When you discount or try to rail against change, you basically suffer from rope burn. And so number one is embrace the technology, go on ChatGPT, see what AI has to offer. Let it do some simple tasks, get acclimated. The likelihood that it's taking your job today or tomorrow is probably low. The answer is it might actually enhance your role by allowing you to walk away from more ministerial tasks and do more interesting tasks where it really hasn't been developed yet. Like thinking through really deep family concerns, like I want to make sure my core values are implemented in my estate plan, or I want to make sure that my children are independent and functional after they receive resources. Like that's going to be a hard one to solve for a computer. I liken it to, we've had this conversation using, Google Maps or Waze. You get on this thing and you say, here's where I want to go. And you actually know the route yourself, but you figure, hey, why don't I just use Waze? This thing takes you through the most circuitous route on the planet. You go through 14 neighborhoods over 12 speed bumps, and you're like, this is insane. But the algorithm saved you 1 minute of time. You would have been much happier probably driving on a straight path that you've been on a million times and just listening to music and spacing out. But instead, now you're required to concentrate on this crazy ride that saved you literally a minute because the computer just optimizes your time. That's what it thinks its job is. And so computers really haven't come to, hey, Troy really won't like this route that much. I say that, with legacy planning. Now, to me, technology is going to offer two things. Number one, it'll likely offer two-dimensional information to families that they haven't had in the past. Mostly they just see documents or they see insurance illustrations, and they can't make heads or tails of either, by the way. It just looks like mounds of data. And when we're talking to them, if you remember the old Peanuts classics, whenever the teacher would talk to the student, all the student would hear is wah, 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 wah.
Right. Yeah.
And so it was, what did I just say? And so this will frame the information arguably in easy to read dashboards, and more consumable, digestible information will be available. And clients will be able to see things two-dimensionally, meaning, oh, that's how, economically this plan works. It lifts the data off the documents and places it into sort of an economic system that now registers with me. Oh, that's what it does. Oh, that's how it reduced my taxes. Oh, that's what my kids get. So I think technology will frame that up and make it easier for clients to understand the decisions they're making and actually maybe rethink them. With AI, to your point, am I going to get replaced by, HAL like in 2001, where suddenly it says, hey, we're not terminating anything.
You're dating yourself with the 2001 reference, Jonathan.
You're going, you're in trouble. But bottom line is AI is making huge leaps. Now you're able to, with some AI systems, take a ream of maybe 200-300 pages of clients' estate planning documents and have AI review those documents and offer a summary that the client can understand. Well, that's super helpful. I don't really think that's a heady part of the relationship. I don't think you got cut out of anything. And so I think AI will offer easier paths forward and more efficient routes to places that they hadn't been able to go before.
It feels like it's not going to, if I'm a client out there, regardless of size of an estate or what I think I have to, assets to move on, and it's likely not going to, like you said earlier, you described it as, I don't necessarily know if it's going to be able to say, well, Troy wants to leave this type of legacy to his family or his community. It's the sense it's not going to necessarily answer that question. Correct?
I don't think so. I don't think it's prepared to make judgment calls. So if you were to tell, artificial intelligence unit, your deepest desires and your core values, I don't think it would be able to sketch out a plan integrating those somehow. Think about your own interactions with technology, even the most basic. You call into a doctor's office and you get routed through a touch-tone phone system, or you call, your credit card company and they ask 600 questions and you just keep on representative. You just want to get out of it. Give me a human, please. I'm begging. I don't think people, particularly successful people who have relatively limited time and consequently relatively short fuses, they don't want to deal with a machine. They want to deal with a human that quickly assesses and understands and provides wisdom around what they're discussing. So they'll say, John, hey, when should we give our kids information about our planning? That's like a tough question, which devolves into multiple other questions. And they'll say, well, what do most clients do? And I can call upon my wisdom and tell them. Most clients wait till X. And so that's what they want. They're not going to digest or tolerate some system trying to give them just 20 different formats and say, pick one. I don't think it's going to work that way. Maybe it will eventually, but we're not there yet for sure. See, here's what I think, Troy. I think that there's so many time savers that will be involved, and the process now is so painful for families in many ways that this will hopefully eliminate the pain points. I mean, think about it. You've been to different doctors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So think about when you go to a doctor's office, the first thing they do before they even look at you, license and insurance card.
Mm-hmm.
And then they hand you a pad with papers, fill them out. And you've filled this form out 50,000 times. And you're like, my gosh, can't they just share this information? Do I really got to tell them about my family's history, put my birth date on 400 different sheets of paper? I mean, what in the world? And so I think, that onboarding, if you will, when a client, is asked for their family tree, their dates of birth, their personal financial statement, that's like a friction point in the process. Oh my gosh, really? I got to do this again. I just did this for my insurance guy, just did this for my investment guy. Now the lawyer wants this, and then the insurance guy wants this. How many times do I got to be onboarded? And so I think, technology will eliminate those frictions, I believe, and make the process better.
Make the process better and allow to get to those nuanced questions, those nuanced questions, and ultimately those nuanced answers of, well, when should I give when should I, bring my kids in? Well, it depends, right? Like that's, so yeah, okay, all right.
You hit the nail on the head beautifully. We're going to eliminate the ministerial drudgery that clients hate and professionals can't stand. They don't even like doing it. I don't like doing an intake.
Well, I continue to be excited about kind of where the idea of estate planning and talking to folks, and hopefully, people that are listening can, and it doesn't matter. Like I think estate planning, it doesn't matter. I mean, yes, it matters if you have, how many zeros you have, how many zeros you don't have. That part matters. But the stuff that you just described, that strategy piece, that oftentimes can be irrespective of size of estate. Like those are the for lack of a better word, that's the touchy feely stuff that the computer isn't necessarily nuanced in.
That's right. That's the so-called soft side.
Yeah. So as I think about it, I know you and I will be having conversations. I just want to, first of all, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And I always appreciate your ability to look 2, 3, 4 steps in advance of kind of where we are. And that's why I wanted to be able to talk about where we are, where we were, where we are, and then where we're going to be. Because like I know you always do, you're always forward thinking into how things are going to be, and from my experience, you end up being right, more often than not. So hopefully the audience today got a little glimpse of that, and we'll just see how it turns out.
Troy, you're incredibly insightful and an excellent judge of character, I have to say.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. So with that, I want to thank you. I'm Troy Branch. This is Future Focus, a financial strategies podcast. Thanks and have a great day.